and welcome everyone. This is your host Sabeen Muzaffar, and I'm absolutely thrilled to host this fireside chat with Saba Karim Khan. The title of this fireside chat is Inclusive Fiction. And so today we're going to talk with author Saba Karim Khan, and she will be focusing on inclusive fiction, writing from a browned out standpoint without pandering to South Asian tropes, yet not shying away from everyday embodied realities. So, welcome, Saba. Welcome on board. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Sabine. I'm so honored and so privileged to be a part of such a fabulous and stunning lineup of, thunderous women. Very excited and, congrats on this fabulous festival, first of all, and really looking forward to our chat today.
You're very welcome and thank you for being here. A little bit about Saba. Saba Karim Khan is an author, award-winning filmmaker, and educator whose writing has appeared in The Guardian, The Independent, Vasafari, HuffPost, Ian Figo, if I haven't pronounced the name properly, apologies for that, Verso, Dawn, Express Tribune, Think Progress. She has read social anthropology at the University of Oxford and works at NYU Abu Dhabi. Her debut novel, Skyfall, was recently published by Bloomsbury. Her documentary film, Concrete Dreams, Some Roads Lead Home, is now on Amazon Prime Video. Before joining the Academy, she worked as country marketing and public affairs head at Citigroup. Born in Karachi, she now lives in Abu Dhabi with her husband and two daughters. Saba Karim Khan can be contacted at sabakarimkhan.com and via Twitter. Okay, I'll read this last line again. Saba Karim Khan can be contacted at sabakarimkhan.com and via Twitter at Saba Karim. That is at SABAKARIM. So welcome, Saba.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sabine.
So Saba, I'll just dive in and talk about writing from a browned out standpoint without pandering to South Asian tropes. I'm reading this because this is what we discuss, and I would like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, Sabine, when we were kind of chatting informally about this fireside conversation, I think because the experience with the debut novel is so fresh in my mind in some ways, and it was so experimental, given it was the first time I was doing this, I think one of the things, and then in the kind of these book talks, and a theme that has come up and that has been really salient is this conversation around South Asian storytellers in general, be that, well, I think more novelists, but all kinds of writing or film or storytelling in general gets a lot of flack for, pandering to the tropes that, oh, people are always writing about the same, XYZ topics. It's always kind of revisiting terrain that has been done to death. It's the women's issues, it's the terrorism issue, it's all of that. And so I guess I thought it was going to be an important conversation to have to think. I've been thinking about it a lot increasingly, that how do you perform this really delicate dance between, well, the issues of women, the issues of religion, the sort of this fetish for purity, dogma, all of these things that we see as being visited in literature very frequently. They're part of our everyday reality, and when I think people ask me, oh, what inspired you to write the book? What are the things that, you think of? What's your process like? And I'm like, well, I think a lot of times it's issues that bother me or that make me seethe. And I think, as they probably make a lot of other people angry as well. And I think fiction offers you this very powerful and yet sort of tactful platform that you're not necessarily very overtly offending people, but you're weaving it within the garb of fiction. So that's one part of the story, right? Which is to say, I will write about issues in all likelihood, or let's say the probability of me writing about issues that bother me or that are part of my reality, it's hard to shy away from that. You
Yeah.
know, I think the issue becomes because, Sabine, I think the ecosystem for, let's say, the literary ecosystem, be that publishing, be that bookshops, be that agents, be that MFA degrees, it's also fledgling. I mean, I think there's a great renaissance that's happening right now with it, but it's still it's in its very nascent stages. And I think that makes us reliant on obviously publishers often outside of Pakistan to think about. And that's where the question of what is publishable, what is important, and how do I really strike this hybrid balance kind of come up. You know, and I think for me, and I'll throw this back to you, I don't want to kind of go off on a monologue now, but I think for me, Sabine, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot in the sort of, well, during the crafting of Skyfall, but also post that, is that I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to revisit the same issues, because those issues are not going away. You know, they're very salient to us. But I think for me, the question, or let me say the response is twofold. One is to say, I think we've merely scratched the surface right now, you know, because I mean, we have just a handful of writers from Pakistan. I've been comparing even to India after releasing the book, and it's a very different kind of literary class that they have, you know, like the diversity of voices. And I feel hopefully we're going to get there, but we're at a different stage right now. And so I feel revisiting that same terrain is not the problem, but I see it like almost like digging a well. So there's so much there that to unearth and to delayer, that I feel like at the moment we're literally maybe on the surface. And so it would be interesting to see literature coming out of Pakistan that speaks to, you know, if I'm talking about, I'll give you women's writing as an example, Sabine, which I know is close to your heart as well. You know, we tend to typically see this in the box of, oh, either Pakistan's the sixth most dangerous place for women and women are being killed, and you've got to have a veiled woman on your cover who's completely oppressed, or it's going to be like, oh, she's the fast, vile, high society woman, you know, who's super privileged. And I guess for me, like the answer to this pandering criticism is to say, can I tell a Pakistani woman's story that is somewhere that is exploring a more middle, a more gray ground, where she doesn't have to belong to one of these polarized ends of the spectrum? So I think for me, step number one is really, even if I'm on the same topic, is there a new or a fresh way or a more profound way of telling that story? And
Yeah.
I know how you see this, but I'd love to hear what you think.
You know, not being an author myself, yes, a writer, a journalist, but not an author. Uh, you know, there are several talks that I've participated in, and you know, whenever I'm interviewed in the West, from people coming from the US, one thing they ask me, you know, when we talk about Ananke is, they say, you know, so how did it all begin? And by that, they mean, what is the sad story behind it? You know what I'm saying? You know, so, you know, how I'm connecting this is, you know, the publishers, you know, not the publishers, because, uh, I cannot talk about that because that's not my field. But what I feel is, you know, everyone, and not to generalize it again, but they have this thing about Pakistan or this region. You know, there are a few topics that they want to pick out, and they want to say, okay, now the story about gender-based violence or honor killing, which of course, you know, it's fundamental to talk about, it's fundamental to showcase, and fundamental to raise awareness about. But you know, we're not the sum total of that. You know, these stories, you know, that we create, they come from us. I was in one of my emails to Leonora Miano, I talked about, you know, gender in her work, and she said, you know, these characters that I bring to life, they're part of me. So there's no gender involved in it. That's, you know, they're part of who I am, or who, you know, I'm just paraphrasing her. So, when you talk about these publishers and these people who basically who kind of, you know, um, put them in boxes, put uh, writers from the subcontinent in boxes that, okay, if it's a story about gender-based violence, then yes, this is something, people will read. But, how do you feel about that?
Absolutely, Sabine. And I think your anecdote about Ananke and like people asking you about kind of what sparked the whole thing is so interesting, because that is the general impression, right? Like there's got to be a backstory of disempowerment or something that is, I think that's also taken for granted and it's assumed. And it's exactly to your point to say no one's downsizing the fact that often that is the case. But I also feel like that's not the full story. And I loved what you said about, this word you used of boxes. I've been using it a lot myself as well recently, just to think about whether it's women, Sabine, or whether it's gender-based violence, or whether it's Pakistan more generally as well, right? Like, so if I'm talking about, like, for example, Skyfall, my book, a large part of it is based in Lahore. And the reason why I was keen to have this chat about what inclusive writing really means, what does it even encapsulate? I guess for me, so women is one part of it, and then places is the other part of it. To say a lot of times if a story is coming out of Pakistan, it's got to have like this very exoticized, very touristy and kind of voyeuristic gaze, which someone in the West will, which people in the West will kind of take on board, or it'll resonate with them. And to me, Sabine, the journey with Skyfall has been so illuminating in that I've realized, and my editor helped me a ton with this to say, you have to establish a more authentic sense of place. I mean, I want to see, he said, I want to see versions of Lahore that are not sanitized, that are completely rough around the edges, that are not being looked at from the outsider gaze. And for me, it was so interesting because I've got this juxtaposition between Lahore and New York and a little bit of Delhi. And so I was very mindful that the gaze with Lahore has to be very immersive. It can't be pandering to this completely Western gaze. If someone's never been to Lahore, they should be able to imagine those crevices, those gullies, those alleys, And with New York, I realized I wanted it to be an outsider gaze because the protagonist is not at all familiar with that.
Yeah.
But to me, so, inclusive writing, it becomes kind of very easy to gloss over whether it's your characters or whether it's your place. And I think the danger of that, Sabine, becomes this sort of pitfall of tokenism, or like, this idea of window dressing diversity, that of course I've got to have a black character, of course I've got to have a religious minority, of course I've got to have like a gay character, and you realize, and this was my own experience with the book as well, where again, early readers, or specifically my editor who was looking at it with this very critical eye, will tell you, listen, you have to have readers invested in the story beyond putting in a character just because they fit a certain diversity box. We get enough of those check boxes kind of thing. So I think for me, Sabine, the question kind of becomes, are we digging deep enough or not? And I think Mohsin Hamid's work, for example, with Moth Smoke was so interesting to me because he told this story which was based in Lahore, had no sort of, in that sense, didn't have a geographical location abroad, and yet the resonance of that story was worldwide. So I don't know why. See, it's all right to tell a story which is close to your heart because, say, as a woman, I've suffered the violence. That's not the problem. But I think the problem becomes when we start internalizing beliefs about what is publishable, what is important. And so I've got to cherry pick these themes that the publisher is going to then pick up. And it's not that simple, Sabine, because of course, a lot of us are writing with that eye on the prize of trying to get published or whatever it might be. And that's why I wanted to raise the issue of the literary ecosystem to you, because until it's not more local, until it's not more organic, we will always rely on being published by kind of organizations abroad. And there is a dynamic between who's writing and who's publishing you and who's reading you. I think those things are not sort of, it's hard to extricate one from the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And thinking about it, you're talking about tokenism, and as a layperson, why I'm saying this, you know, because you're writing for your readers, and I am a reader. I'm not an author. So for me, even if it's music, if any work that requires creativity, having these checkpoints, doesn't it take out the spirit away? Doesn't it, because, if you're being creative, yes, there are some, structures that you should, well, for me, I don't like following structure, because that's what creativity and art is all about. But, having, for writers, having these check boxes, doesn't it, create a problem? Because, you need to have that authenticity, because a reader, when somebody who's reading, if he's not captivated, or she's not captivated, and she's not buying it, then what the process, then, what's the point of writing a book, if it's not, if the reader doesn't find it authentic? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I completely understand, Sabine. And I think that really speaks to me, because we'd like to ideally believe that the creative spirit gets dampened or diluted by trying to follow something that's formulaic or template based.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I think you raised such a key point. And I'm also hopeful, Sabine, that the needle is moving. So I'm hopeful that with, like, a new kind of, even though it's a fledgling community, but my own experience recently has been showing me that there are a handful of writers now, I'm talking about fiction, who are trying to think outside, like to try and strip open these cookie cutters that we tend to put Pakistan in, these very caricatured notions that you'll have to have a bearded terrorist person, you'll have to have like children, going to bed hungry at night and all that. And so I'm hopeful that the needle on that is moving. But more importantly, to your question, I I completely agree with you. I think as a creative person of any sort, like you don't have to be a novelist for that, just like someone like yourself as well, who does any kind of writing, to be asked to follow kind of toolkit A, B, C, D down to the T, and that's the only way your voice is going to reach a bookshelf, is really, I think, going against the grain of this out of the box, innovative sort of spirit. And somewhere, but in all honesty, Sabine, I would be insincere if I said that doesn't play on the mind of a Pakistani author, and especially an author who's upcoming, who's not maybe like, a Booker Prize winner or whatever. I think these concerns are front and center. What in my own personal journey, what I've tried to now do, even with Skyfall, was to say, remain mindful, and remain mindful of this, so that you're not literally trying to fit every single person into, or every single geography that's in the book into a box. And I think for me, the way that happened was to say, be comfortable with the mess.
Yeah.
Kind of embrace that complexity, whether it's your messiness as a writer, or whether it's the chaos around your characters. There's almost a richness of texture that arises from I think characters that are not sanitized, or that are not completely heroic or completely antagonistic.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way Pakistan's really going to start reclaiming its own voice as an equal in literature as well. Till it's, and again, Sabine, I think it's a process. I don't think it's something that can happen overnight. But I do see with the younger, with a younger lot of writers now, there is an attempt to try and push the envelope a little bit, even if it's still very preliminary. Like, with characters, even with female characters, like there's this proclivity to say, can I make her vulnerable? Can I make her flawed? Or does she have to be that typical, or root for her and she's going to be the hero? Is that it? So hopefully the needle's moving, but I think there's a definite negative correlation between following that template or pandering to those tropes and your creative spirit, to answer your question.
Yeah. It reminded me of the movie A Lost Star. A Star is Lost. A Star is Born. Lady Gaga's movie with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
And in that movie, all these producers and, everyone around Lady Gaga, they're, uh, you know, uh, making a brand out of her with the dyed hair and with this and that. And Bradley Cooper is like uh, cagey about it, because he thinks that, the connection between a singer and uh, her listener is more important, and that authenticity. And you need to find that middle ground where, yes, you have to have that, not that structure, but you be mindful of that, but at the same time not lose out that authenticity, the thing that enables your readers to be invested in you and your writing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I almost feel like I think that's such a great illustration you were trying to say, because that's exactly it, right? And I think funnily, when someone comes back to me about my writing and says, it felt so raw and it felt real, I take that as a compliment, actually, the fact that it's not over sanitized. And to me, like, sometimes I feel when I'm thinking of myself as a storyteller, for example, I'm thinking, and hopefully I hone this as I hone the craft and move ahead, but there's almost this keenness within me, Sabine, to take my readers backstage and say, hey, like, here's my raw material, and come and take a look, and so I'm not saying the story goes out completely unedited or anything, of course not. I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of the process, but that's
Yeah.
not the point. The point is to say, I'm happy to show you my country and its people and its their shades and nuances and hues, which may be very different from yours, but which aren't dumbed down. And this is especially the case, Sabine, I think, when we're writing about, coming back to inclusive writing, when we're writing about characters on the margins, people we tend to see on the margins. Like, for example, in my book, it's, a girl from Hira Mandi in Lahore, which is the red light district. And there's this sense of saying, oh, she can't really have a mind. She wouldn't dare to ask questions. There has to be one arc that she must follow. Because, of course, people without wealth and education, we assume, have no minds. And I think part of our job as storytellers, and our mandate has to be to try and show a little more nuance and profundity to those people's characters as well. To say, I don't need to be in the elite comfort of my drawing room or, wherever, to be able to have a smart conversation. And if anything, I think the curveballs life throws at these people kind of makes them stretch their resilience like a muscle. So I feel like this goes back, Sabine, to the idea of inclusive characters, because you can put someone in there again to just say, yes, I've filled up all the spaces now, so I'm politically correct. But
Yeah.
I just don't think that that does the job, to be
Exactly.
completely honest. And I think somewhere it's going to take developing a lot of comfort in our skin in Pakistan to say, can we still tell a powerful and a compelling story, which maybe is, the thing that comes to my mind. Two things that come to my mind, Sabine, as substantive examples are, would I be comfortable writing a story that explores masculinity in Pakistan, for example, which has, which is very specific to our part of the world, but which has resonance abroad as well? But am I able to tell a story with local salience in a way that it relates to people abroad? The second example that comes to my mind is this whole culture of hyper parenting. Which school is your child in? What are they doing? And I feel like, again, it's an issue people relate to all across the world. But am I comfortable enough in my skin as a storyteller to reclaim that voice and say, this is an issue I've seen a lot in Pakistan. I want to write about it under the garb of fiction. And I'm going to tell it in a way that hopefully it speaks to people all over the world.
Exactly.
I think that's where we'll start pushing back against pandering, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Absolutely. So, coming over to our, I don't know, last question. Do we have
Yeah.
time? So, how has the journey been? And, we will be talking about your book in detail with Tayyiba. I am so excited about that segment as well. But how has the journey been for you, from writing, publishing, and, post launch?
Yeah, well, Sabine, I think for me, all of it at this point feels like a giant experiment, and you feel like it's like you're in this laboratory and you're throwing everything you've got into the mix. And I think, you're staying with it for a while now, the actual writing I'm talking about, and trying to fit these different pieces of the puzzle almost coming together. And, there are days it'll be 60 words, and then there are days that'll be 600 words. But I think midway, Sabina, I reached this point where I was like, back to what I was telling you earlier, which is to say, I don't have access to an inner circle in publishing. I don't carry a conventional writing degree. All I had was kind of this fire to unearth this song that I wanted to sing or tell. And I realized that, I'm going to have to be comfortable with the experimental and the trial and error nature of this thing. And some things will work better than others. And I think you just have to kind of become okay with that. And the reason why I want to share that, Sabine, is that for anybody who's listening, like we tend to, today you see Skyfall on a bookshelf, it's done, it's dusted, you're interviewing, it's glorious, it's great, you feel it's rewarding. But it's not like that when you start out. And I think I'm someone who's very much about being on this fireside chat with you and saying, hey, like it's very vulnerable. You're really putting a part of yourself out there in the universe. And it's important to kind of try and normalize conversations around imperfection and vulnerability. And I had a lot of moments, Sabine, of feeling like this imposter syndrome that women get a lot anyway, and just thinking, am I doing this okay? Like, should I? 2 or 3 months into the lead up to publishing, I was like, why did I ever do this? I mean, and all of that. And it starts getting to you. But I think the part that's also been very pleasantly surprising for me is that you get told a lot, Sabine, that publishing prospects for first time fiction writers are dangerously low. And to me, I guess my experience has been that it's not easy, but with the right mix of your own work, editing, this, that, the other, like it's not a non starter. Even though
Oops, oops, wait. You have to, I accidentally
even though
muted.
in Pakistan,
Yeah,
unmute.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, that's actually fine. And so I think for me, the surprising thing was that, an agent takes you on, or like a publishing house like Bloomsbury takes a shot on you, even though, nowadays it's so much about being more of a social media celebrity. Either you're like a well established writer, or you're like, you've got a big influencer following. And I was neither one of those. And I think it's important to talk about those things, because anyone else who's aspiring to do that then feels like, okay, then you can have the courage to do it. um, Post publishing, Sabine, obviously I think I underestimated how crazy that gets. And both in terms of course you get a variety of reactions, which I think is very exciting. But also just in terms of, I guess, publicity and marketing has become such a big part of
Yeah,
this. And this
yeah.
kind of goes back to your question of the creative spirit and what nurtures it and what dampens it. So I think I really enjoy kind of conversations like these. But then with social media being what it is, I think the day before, for example, Skyfall launched, I was trying to put myself on a journey to say, of course, people's reactions matter. When you're doing a talk somewhere at a lit fest or whatever, and someone comes up to you and says, oh, this particular scene really touched my life, of course that feels good.
Yeah.
But I do think, Sabine, it's also important to say, I'm trying to put myself on a journey where you have to work a little bit agnostic to validation, because I think the highs that social media gives you and then the lows are both pretty meaningless,
Yes.
in many ways. So I think whilst it's all right and it's a fact of life, but I think as anyone who's aspiring to write or publish or storytell in any form, it is important to also kind of be comfortable with all of that surround sound and realize that it's not entirely real. So I think that's what the journey has been like for me. But otherwise, obviously rewarding in many ways. You feel like you wanted to unleash this part of your spirit, of your song. And yeah, I think it's been very exciting.
I'm sure it is. And I've been following your immense journey since the day we connected. I knew about your work, but now knowing you, it's been awe-inspiring. Thank you, Sabah, so much for this amazing chat. And we both know it's not going to be the end. We're going to, reconnect again. So, but thank you so much. It has been a wonderful evening with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabine. And just before we end, I also you're fatigued hearing this, but I'm just, I can only pay that back to you because you're like I think just the solidarity that you're forging for so many of us, and in particular for women. I think for writers of all kinds, but really in particular for women with literature, but then everything else that Ananke is doing, it's just, I think it's trailblazing. And I feel like you're walking the talk, and not enough of us do that. And so I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity, and also just for being part of this journey with you. It's absolutely, I think it's groundbreaking, and it's inspiring at a whole different level.
Thank
And
you.
yes, it's definitely not the last. I
Yes.
feel like any conversation, whether it's on WhatsApp or here, is
Yeah.
always generative with you. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for saying that. It really warms the heart and kind of reinforces that commitment that you have. But, it's always nice to, have like minded people, share the same feeling. So thank you for that.